Triceratops, Diabloceratops, and Avaceratops. These three are the Isle's premier ceratopsians, occupying the apex, mid, and small tiers respectively. Oh, and Taco too, I guess. Besides being in the same suborder of Ornithischian, these animals share much more in common than just physical attributes, their personalities. The Isle has an identity issue when it comes to their ceratopsians, always opting to portray them as, well, complete crash-outs. That is to say, aggressive and attacking everything that they see. While this isn't exactly a bad thing, as it does lend to the raging bull personality often associated with these animals, the novelty tends to wear off when there's little to no other defining factor for them. All except for one, that being the species you probably think that I forgot about. The humble Udanoceratops. Protoceratops is the only confirmed playable ceratopsian on this roster to seemingly have been spared the personality of the calmest Eagles fan after winning the Super Bowl. While they will be able to defend themselves from similarly sized animals, their concept art portrays them as being a much more isolationist species, spending its life on the beach, inside of burrows, and within their own herds. They're xenophobic. So today we're going to talk about how Protoceratops could possibly have its role in the ecosystem bolstered by indirectly providing food to smaller animals, while also just making the coastal areas much more interesting through the use of tide pools. Welcome to this week's Fish Hook, and let's just go ahead and dive right on into this. For a little bit of necessary context, I recently made a video talking about how the small and tiny tier dinosaurs should be more important by making the effects of their gameplay impact the larger animals, whether through things like pollination, providing some special form of food, and even bartering. You can check that video out if you haven't already. So today I'd like to kind of delve a little more and kind of peel the skin off of how exactly Protoceratops' tide pool mechanic could work, and go over some details that I may not have covered in the original video. It's important to note that this mechanic depends nearly entirely on the existence of the drought system that has been mentioned several times throughout the course of Evrima's development. If there are no droughts, then there are no tide pools, as water would not be able to be generated in non-pre-designated areas. So for the sake of simplicity, we're operating under the assumption that the drought system will be fully functional. Ballin'. But now, about the tide pools themselves. As much as I enjoy talking about it, words can only really do so much to help you truly see the vision. If only we had some sort of visual representation of these ideas, like some sort of art that shows off the concept. That's right, baby, we got some homemade concept art for you today. But it's not actually for me. What, you think I actually have talent? You think I have any special skills whatsoever? No. It's from the absolute GO 22 crafting tables. I'll leave a link to his socials in the description below. His illustrations appear often on this channel, and he was kind enough to provide us with this set of incredible Protoceratops sketches for me to share with you all today. So first and foremost, how would these tide pools form? In this sketch, two protos are seen digging the initial trench that will surround their burrow, with one of the specimens excavating the sand while the other retrieves special rocks to line the sides with, creating a sort of moat. This structure would surround the animal's unique mound-like burrow and serve as an additional way for Proto to avoid danger, as you can see by the sketch showing an individual tucked away from an Allosaurus. Eventually, whether due to being abandoned, unattended, or the Proto simply dies, these moats would begin to fill up with non-drinkable salt water after a specified amount of time. So eventually these little rivulets and ponds will then begin to spawn small marine creatures, including animals like crabs, mussels, clams, sea urchins, starfish, and even small octopi, as pictured here. Also, look at my boy. Look at bro, he in that shit for real. These animals would effectively provide a possible form of nutrients for juveniles and smaller dinosaurs that find themselves spawning on the beach. Perhaps a juvie omni who's struggling to find dead bodies or other forms of AI to consume could find brief respite in this tide pool, retrieving a clam and using its silky claw to crack it open and eat the juicy bits on the inside. Hell, they could even grow small bundles of kelp or seagrass that would provide food for some herbivores and omnivores, particularly the underwater grazers like Minmi and Babyosaurus. But much like life, your family, and this can of Coke Zero beside me, the tide pools would not last forever. After about maybe 2 real-life hours passed, the AI would slowly disappear and the streams would begin to fill back up with sand, becoming part of the silent beach it was before. That is, of course, until another family of protos decide that they'd also like to purchase a beachfront property and the cycle begins all over again. Not only would this make Protoceratops' activities a net positive for many of the animals living around it, but it would bring some much-needed life to the beaches and islands of Gateway, a habitat that I personally cannot wait to be more fleshed out. And the best part is, many of these AI wouldn't even be difficult to animate, as 90% of them don't even really move half the time. But what about their combat abilities? For that, I'd like to hand things off to my good friend Stellotyrannus. That is, I would if he wasn't stranded in the middle of a desert right now. So on his behalf, I'm gonna read this short summary of some ideas that he has personally come up with regarding Proto's combat and defense. A lot of this will be a part of a roster analysis series that he is putting tons of work into, so I encourage you guys to be on the lookout for those videos when they pop up. And obviously go subscribe to Stellotyrannus if you haven't already. So just pretend I'm him for like the next, I don't know, 2 minutes. As a fighter, Proto probably isn't going to be able to kill anything larger than a Herrera. I would ideally like to have it at around 140 kilograms, making Troodon and Velociraptor its two main predators, assuming the latter is still going to happen. Its first two moves would be simple. A bite, dealing 40 damage with low bleed, and an 80 damage goring attack that can be used by looking down and pressing left mouse button, similar to what Dibble can currently do. This would also work for opening up coconuts. Additionally, I would like for its running flip attack to be able to stun things that are as big as Herreras and knock down animals that are Dryo-sized and smaller. However, its sparring is where it's gonna get interesting, as Dondi himself has mentioned that Protoceratops will lock jaws when fighting each other and use its beak more as opposed to other ceratopsians, true to the animal's nature and reputation. While it's inside of its burrow, assuming a spar stance would allow a Protoceratops to lunge forward and cancel the digging animation of animals as large as Allosaurus. After all, even if it is small, getting attacked by one of these creatures while you're trying to dig into its home would surprise even very much larger creatures. This ability would be conditional, however, and would not work on every animal. For example, Quetz could just skewer the Proto out of the burrow with its beak, and one venomous bite from a Megalania is all that's needed to spell out death, even with the extra bit of armor that the Protoceratops' head will provide. With a pack limit of about 10, Proto would be the ultimate colonial burrow defender, built for both spotting danger and fighting back when absolutely necessary. And it should be able to jump. Oh my god, please let it jump. Hi, Fisher again. I'm sure you're wondering what this sketch in the bottom right corner is. Well, this would probably be the simplest thing to implement and could possibly already be on the devs' radar: salt deposits. We technically already have these in the form of salt rocks scattered around Gateway, but they're often in pretty inconvenient locations, very out of the way. Coastal deposits of salt do happen very often in the real world, and having 2 or 3 areas on both the mainland and the islands would greatly enrich the habitats visually, while also providing a solution to beach dwellers with vomit sickness. The reason that I bring it up with Protoceratops is because it would be especially useful, as according to the concept art, it will presumably have the ability to drink salt water, which negates pretty much any reason for it to ever really go inland for fresh water. And that's about everything that I think is worth covering in the time that we have today. So if you stuck around to the end, thank you so much for watching, and as of recording this video, I have just hit 10,000 subscribers, which is absolutely mind-blowing. I don't think I have the words to properly describe how grateful I am to all of you who have stuck around. I would have never thought that this many people would actually be interested in me rambling about quite literally nothing. So to celebrate this milestone and show you my gratitude, I will be plunging myself into the middle of the Everglades with a camera strapped to my chest to do some fishing while I answer some of your questions in our first ever Q&A on this channel. So drop your inquiries in the comments section down below, and I will spend the next few weeks picking out the ones that tickle my fancy the most. Thank you all so much for the support you've shown me, and I truly cannot wait to continue growing the channel and making new videos for all of you. Perchance.